feel like sports has brought people together over a long period of time, and, watching different adversities, whether it was 9/11, whether that was Katrina, sports has an amazing way of healing wounds and bringing people together and bringing communities together and something to cheer for and a common interest and a common good. So I think anytime you can participate in things like that, it's a great feeling. And, I know it means a lot for us to have the opportunity to go out and play for our fans always. But, after what so many people have gone through in the state, it's great to go out there and give them something to cheer about.
Tom Brady talking about the impact of Hurricane Ian. Brady has made a donation, to the Florida Disaster Fund to get things started, and hopefully others will follow suit. Reminds me of what J.J. Watt did when the hurricane hit the Houston area several years back. The Buccaneers kicking in $1 million. Great gesture by them. A lot of cleanup to be done. A lot of lives turned upside down. Hopefully not too many lives lost. We still are awaiting some official numbers. It was a horrible scene in Florida. It didn't hit Tampa directly, and as a result, the game on Sunday night between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers will proceed as scheduled in Raymond James Stadium. And look, as long as they've got the appropriate personnel available and it's not a strain on the resources that may be needed elsewhere, it's a good thing to have a distraction, to have a diversion like this, to kind of bring everybody together in the aftermath of the storm. And, by the way, it's one of the best games of the weekend. Rematch of Super Bowl 55? 55? My God, I'm starting to lose track of which Super Bowl was when, Peter, but it was Super Bowl 55 when the Buccaneers beat the Chiefs. And
beat them 31-9.
Could be the last time we saw. Well, and that was the game where Patrick Mahomes had that toe injury, and he was relentlessly harassed by the Tampa Bay defensive line all game long, and he gave his best effort. It was heroic what Mahomes was trying to do to will his team back into that game. And the Chiefs were favored in that one. They're very slight favorites in this one. I think like a 1-point favorite against the Buccaneers. But and as you said, there's no must-win in late September, early October. But there's a big difference between 3-1 and 2-2 for teams that were expected to be 3-1 or better through the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, but I think a lot of this also, Mike, is the way the schedule falls. And, the way Kansas City's schedule is falling and is falling, it's really, as is Tampa. I think if you look at Tampa's schedule and you said, okay, first 4 games, if you end up 2-2, especially with the amazing amount of injuries and missing pieces on offense. I mean, I don't care how few points they've scored. I find it amazing the Bucs are 2-1 and have figured out some way to get to 2-1. And now where you get Mike Evans back, there's one guy, and you don't know until Sunday night who else is coming back, especially because this has been an odd week. Obviously, the Bucs went to Miami on Tuesday, and they practiced there Wednesday and Thursday. I don't know what they're doing today, whether they're staying there and practicing one more day before coming home. But whatever it is, the bulk of their practice week has been in weather that, relatively speaking, is fairly favorable to them. And they didn't have to deal with the hurricane. So we'll see if they're able to get any of their other receivers back in time, because they desperately, desperately need them. I don't know if you noticed this last week, Mike, but Tom Brady, very early on, I think the first snap that Cole Beasley ever played as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Brady drilled one to him. And he looked for him a couple of times very, very early. And when that happened, I said, man, Brady is a desperado for anybody who he trusts who can catch the ball.
That's right, and he's trying to get to the point where he can trust Beasley. He ended up trusting Russell Gage extensively against the Green Bay Packers. He'll have Mike Evans back, but the offense has been struggling. Here's Brady talking about the difficulty that his team has had moving the ball and scoring points?
Well, I certainly expect us and hope we can score more points than what we've been scoring. So, it's a lot to, I think we're all disappointed by the fact that we haven't scored as many points as I think we're all capable of scoring. We're 3 games in. I think we've realized there's things that, we haven't done so well that we got to get corrected. And, who's ever in the game, we got to go in there and do a better job scoring points. And like I said, it comes down to a lot of different things. Penalties, turnovers, and it's making the right play, executing the play. And, if we do that, I believe we'll score points. So it hasn't been at our highest level the first 3 weeks of the year. And hopefully we can get there at some point, but we're working hard to get there.
They averaged 30 points per game last year. This year, they're averaging 17 points per game. 3 passing touchdowns overall for Tom Brady. Peter, you made the point last week that his yards per attempt well south of 7, in the range of 6.5, 6.6, still in that range after the loss to the Green Bay Packers. And look, the injuries have a lot to do with it. 13 different players have caught a pass through 3 games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and once they get their full complement back, who knows when Chris Godwin will be back with the hamstring injury, but Evans will be back after the suspension. Julio Jones, maybe he'll be back. They have Russell Gage. They've got all these great receivers, but it's just to see it happen so early in the season. It happened to him last year later in the season. To see it happen so early in the season really is stunning, and if they get through this and get their guys back healthy, they could go on a nice run, and they're a team I'm still keeping an eye on as a very strong contender to end up back in the Super Bowl.
And look, Mike, I'm not counting on Julio Jones. It's nothing, he's not a malingerer. It's just that the last 2.5 years have shown that you simply can't count on Julio Jones to be a regular participant in the sport of football. He's just not capable of doing that anymore. So I almost don't even include him in the equation. Whatever you get from him, the 4 or 5 games maybe that he plays from here on out, to me is just an absolute bonus. But beyond that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are extremely fortunate that they've had the best defense in the league through 3 weeks, that they've allowed 9 points a game to some pretty good foes, starting with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. So to me, that has been the key to this team, that Todd Bowles doesn't control Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich, but he does control his side of the ball. And that side of the ball has been playing great, and it's needed to play great early on.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.